In the upcoming edition of It's About Money, we'll be talking to Alex Castro, Executive Director of the Housing Council in Rochester, New York. We'll be talking about avoiding foreclosure on your mortgage, so stay tuned.
Oh, I must be careful. Well, that's a nice picture.
Come on, Anna.
Okay.
Foreclosure doesn't affect just you. It affects your whole family, too. If you've fallen behind on your mortgage, we can help. Call 1-888-995-HOPE, because nothing is worse than doing nothing.
Hello, this is another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon, and thank you for joining us. It's About Money is a program that talks about many different financial topics, and today our guest is Alex Castro. He is the Executive Director at the Housing Council here in Rochester. In 2008 and 2009, we've had a lot of discussion about foreclosures, and even if we're not affected as much in Rochester, it's still an important topic in many people's minds. So welcome, Alex. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
So tell me about the Housing Council. What is that about?
The Housing Council has been around since 1971. It's a local nonprofit organization serving Monroe County. Lately, we are well known for our foreclosure prevention program, which has been in effect for the past 10 years.
Okay. And mortgage foreclosure has been a big topic because we hear that in the coastal states of California and Florida, with a lot of people finding themselves with mortgages that are upside down and losing their jobs and so on. How big is the problem here in Rochester in mortgage foreclosure?
We have had actually a foreclosure problem longer than Florida and California. The difference between both markets is that the foreclosures in Rochester are due more to loss of job and economic factors rather than housing prices increasing 25-30%. What we see here is that it's just bad things happening to good people, regular homeowners who work hard, purchase a home that they can actually afford, but due to the unfortunate circumstances in the economy, they lose their jobs and subsequently face foreclosure.
Yeah, well, as a financial advisor, I recommend for people to have 3 to 6 times monthly expenses, but in these difficult times, a mortgage typically comprises about 25% of a household's income. So it makes it a challenge when the cash flow isn't there.
Absolutely. We look back statistically at what are the real causes of foreclosures in the Rochester area, Monroe County area. And number one by far is loss of employment. Mm-hmm. The second one is loss of income, which is different than loss of employment. Loss of income means that even if someone lost a job and they found another job, it's paying significantly less.
I see.
And the third reason would be medical bills.
Okay, yeah, right. And that's medical bills supposed to be the number one reason for bankruptcies. So that's an interesting issue. Now, with the internet so available to many people, if you Google avoiding mortgage foreclosure, there's so many different ads that pop up, and there are many firms that promote to be able to help the consumer avoid foreclosure. How legitimate are those? I mean, they have fees and so on. So can you talk about the differences between those offerings and what the Housing Council can do for homeowners?
Absolutely. The Attorney General is actually looking into a lot of those companies, and the name is, basically they're recognized as foreclosure rescue scams. Basically is this: if you are being charged a fee for a service that assists you in avoiding foreclosure, is a scam. The services should be provided for free for any homeowner that is facing foreclosure. So the best thing to do is to, for example, organizations as the Housing Council. People can contact us either through the phone or through our website, and really try to avoid the people that show up in your house and say, hey, I can help you, we have expertise in this area. So the best thing for them to do is just to contact us directly.
Yeah. Actually, I did meet a person who is not here in Rochester, but in another state in the Midwest. And she lost her job and was going to lose her house. And somebody had knocked on the door, she described, and said, we'll help you out. And she said, I met this guy and he looked like a priest, and so I believed him. And what it was a real scam that she ended up losing her home. She had 30% equity and completely lost it because they paid off the mortgage and gave her a different loan that was payable within 12 months, which she didn't understand.
Right. Our job in the Housing Council, the best way that I can describe it, is our job is as interpreters. All of our staff have banking experience and have also gone through extensive foreclosure prevention training. Our job as translators, what I mean by that is when a homeowner is losing their home, they speak the emotional language. Oh my God, my home, the equity, my sweat, so much work I put into it. On the other hand, the bank speaks the financial collection language. So when they try to communicate, there is miscommunication. Our job is to take the emotional language from the homeowner, translate it into financial language to the banks, and vice versa. So that way we are able to assist the homeowner, and we take a lot of that responsibility of thinking of the financial language is our responsibility, and that's why we have been able to be so successful.
I see. So you have contacts in the banking industry, mortgage lenders then?
Right. The reason why we have been able to be so successful for the past decade is because our credibility with lenders. Lenders understand that when we call them, we have already worked out with the homeowner several budget scenarios. And we understand that this homeowner, in fact, can afford the home. And that way, when we call the banks understand, okay, the Housing Council is calling us, they must have some good plan for us to work with the homeowner.
I see. So instead of the homeowner just calling the mortgage lender directly and not having a plan of action,
right,
you help come up with some sort of strategy.
What we have found out over time is that if a homeowner tries to do this on their own, they have a 30% chance of being successful in avoiding foreclosure.
Okay.
Versus 85 to 90% if they work with the Housing Council.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's great. So it's just, like you say, speaking the right language.
Speaking the right language, having the credibility with the bank. If we don't believe that this person can really save their home, we help them on how to get out of the situation they're in, but not necessarily go to the bank. So all of our plans with the banks have to be realistic.
I see. So there are times where you don't even have to go to the bank if you've laid out some plans for the individuals to kind of modify their payments in some other way, or their budget in some other way.
Correct.
I see. Well, that's
but our main tool is working with the lender.
Okay, I see. That's terrific. Because sometimes, it's like speaking Italian and Greek, to each other, and it's not coming across. So it's really a different type of language altogether. And of course, it's understandable for the mortgagee to not understand the finance language because they don't do that every day.
And the frustration. And a lot of the comments that we get from homeowners is, when they come to us, it's like a load off their back. They know they still got to deal with this, but they give us, please communicate this on my behalf to the bank. And what our counselors are great at doing is taking the larger problem and piecing it out in a way that we can tell the homeowner, you do this part and I'll work on this. And then step 2, once you're done with that, we're going to go in this direction. So it gives the homeowner the ability to address the problem in smaller steps.
I see. Now, how quickly should mortgagee contact the Housing Council? I mean, is it when they lose their jobs, or is it when they're in the brink of losing their home that they get a notice from the bank? I mean, what stage of the game should they be contacting to get help?
Usually, the sooner they can contact us, the better. Unfortunately, this is almost like going to the doctor and say, can you put a cast on my leg because I plan to break it in the next month? The doctor is not going to put the cast.
Right.
So if the person starts to find themselves in financial difficulties, they can call us. We wouldn't be able to work with the lender until they're actually facing foreclosure.
I see.
Because the only way that we can work with the lender is once their file has been given to the collection aspect of the lender.
I see.
But in the meantime, there's a lot of things that we can help them to avoid getting to that steps. But once they receive a notification from the lender, the first thing they need to do is contact us.
I see. And how do people find you? I mean, I know I got a flyer from a friend from the credit bureau, and that's how I found out. I mean, I haven't had the need to know for clients, but how would people find out?
As you mentioned earlier, you see all these foreclosure rescue scams on the internet. On radio, on TV, and what they have is marketing money. Our way of contacting individuals is through word of mouth, but one of our outreach efforts is Anyone who gets a foreclosure file against them in the county clerk's office, we send them a letter. So if you're facing foreclosure and you receive something that says the housing council, the services are free.
I see, I see. So so you make a proactive approach when you see that list, because that's certainly your market.
That's my market.
Okay.
Very targeted market.
I see. Now, you don't have a marketing budget like they do, but you do a target. I mean, it's very much targeted because they are the audience that would definitely need your help.
Yeah.
But then how do you get funded? I mean, how do you run the organization?
We are funded, we have a diverse source of funding. The City of Rochester, Monroe County, the United Way, New York State Banking Department, Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Sunny May. So we have a pretty diverse source of funding.
Right, that's great. So they all recognize that it's really very expensive for everybody when a homeowner loses a house.
Right. And the reason why it's free, and I want to emphasize is, it's not that you get what you pay for, so the homeowner feels that, well, they're an organization that is free, so I got to go and pay somebody to really get my money's worth. The reason why it's free to the homeowner, but we do get funding to provide this exact service.
I see. So the homeowner picks up the phone, contacts the housing council, and they don't have to make a commitment to pay you, but you really can't start the process for them unless they've been notified that they have a notice for foreclosure.
Right. And to eliminate all the guesswork, what we tell the homeowners is just call our telephone number. Let us drive you through the process, and we will let you know. I think that's the most difficult part, giving that first step. Should I call? What am I going to say? I don't understand. Just call.
No, it's interesting because loss of job, loss of income happens in all walks of life. From someone who has the means to buy a house in Rochester, you could buy a house in the city for $50,000 or less. We could also buy a house for $500,000 or more. Is there like a limit or a range of mortgages that you folks help out?
We see them all. As a matter of fact, the criteria for us to serve individuals are you facing foreclosure?
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
And one of the things that we're seeing is that the foreclosure problem is actually increasing on the suburbs, on the suburban areas, more than before. So we're actually seeing a doubling every 4 to 5 years of the foreclosures in the surrounding suburbs.
Do you have the figures of how many properties are generally foreclosed, like in a given year, say if you look at the past several years?
Yeah, it is very difficult to determine. In order to get the data, we have to look at 3 different databases. There is not one database that has all the data. So, for example, we research the county records that tells us who is foreclosing. Okay. Then we search the daily record to figure out who has actually foreclosed or sold. So there's a lot of research that goes into that, and it's very difficult to pinpoint. And I'll give you an example. Foreclosures may take 9 months, a year, 13 months. So the database doesn't differentiate between when a foreclosure was started and when it was ended. So we try to stay away really of putting a solid number to it unless we're able to identify specifically what it is that we're looking for. I
see what you mean, because it could overlap. One could be a shorter process than the other. So it could take as long as 1.5 years. Is that right?
It could take very long.
Oh, yes. Wow. So, but during that time, does the homeowner have the option to stay in their home?
Our number one goal is to keep the homeowner in the home.
I see.
Our second goal is to avoid the foreclosure. And I want to make sure that I clarify what avoiding foreclosure is. Avoiding foreclosure is not necessarily staying in the home. You get to stay in the home.
I see.
The reason why we talk about avoiding foreclosure is because of the larger negative financial impact that a foreclosure has, not only on the family and the children, but in the neighborhood or the municipality where the home is. How does that affect the tax base, but also how does that affect the property values around that house?
Sure, because if you have a foreclosure that could negatively impact, it could drag down the property values. It will. It's not could. It will. Okay, I see what you mean. So there's a general interest from the city and the county and some other organizations, because then that's what the tax base is derived from, right? I mean, that's the tax calculation is based on that price.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So it's good for everybody when those things don't happen.
Oh, absolutely, because it affects everyone. And one of the examples we tend to use is not only the value, but how it affects the family dynamics. And if there is that stress put into, let's say, for example, the children. These are the children that are going to school and perhaps affecting their behavior in school. And how does that affect the other people in school? So the ramifications of actual foreclosure go beyond saying, well, this homeowner couldn't pay their home. So what is it to me? It actually affects us all. At night, we all go somewhere, hopefully it's home, and it tends to affect our neighborhoods.
I see. That's great. It's been really interesting. You've been very helpful. I'm going to take a quick break. Our guest is Alex Castro, Executive Director of the Housing Council in Rochester, New York. Stay tuned. And we're back. I'm Nannette Nocon, host of It's About Money. Our guest today is Alex Castro, Executive Director of the Housing Council in Rochester, New York. We're talking about avoiding foreclosure on your mortgage. So Alex, thanks again for being here.
My pleasure.
Now, we were talking about, before the break, the social implication and emotional implication of what a foreclosure might do. And you're absolutely right. It's beyond the financial end of it. Right?
Oh, absolutely. And it goes beyond... in Rochester, we have to understand that this is not people that bought a house that they could really not afford. That tends to happen in high real estate markets such as Florida and California, where people wanted to flip properties. Truly, the problem in Rochester is responsible people buying homes that they could afford. Due to the economy, circumstances happen, and now they're facing foreclosure.
So it really happens across the board, all different socioeconomic backgrounds. Like you're saying, it's affecting the suburbs. So it's not like a stigma of a particular population or anything like that. It just happens to everybody.
If you own a home and you get affected in a negative way by the economy, it could be it. Like I said, it's bad things happening to good people.
No, does a homeowner have to hire an attorney to? I mean, do they have to pay an attorney before working with you, or do they can just go directly to the Housing Council?
The service is 100% free to the homeowner.
All right, so great. So they don't need any other advisors as such, because you don't have a vested interest besides the interest of the homeowner who's come to seek your help.
Correct. And if there's a need for an attorney, we work with local nonprofit legal organizations that if the case merits an attorney, we can then work with that organization as well for free.
Oh, for free. So it really shouldn't have to spend any necessary funds.
The homeowner, any penny that they spend should be spent in bringing the mortgage currently, not paying an organization to help them.
Right. We've been talking about this. Would you mention your phone number when we'll post it on the screen? But
absolutely. 546-3700, and our website is www.thehousingcouncil.org.
Great, that's great. We'll post it. And people should be, if they have a friend or a neighbor, or probably not neighbor, most neighbors don't talk about that, but somebody that they know who could benefit from that.
Right, and when you go to our website, you can click on the top corner under homeowner, and if this is at 8 o'clock at night and obviously there's no one in the office, there is an online form that you can fill out to have a counselor contact you at whatever time of the day is easier for you. So even if you can only take a call at 8 o'clock at night, if you request for one of our counselors to call you at that time, we'll make sure they will call you.
That's great to know, because some people who are in that difficult situation, when you say loss of income, they may have to take a job that doesn't allow them to take a break to make a call. And I imagine the call would take more than 2 or 3 minutes. So it would be difficult to take a break at the job that you're trying to hold on to, or trying to impress the new employer. It would be difficult to make that break. Yeah.
Our goal is for the homeowner to have to do one thing. Just call 546-3700 and we'll take it from there.
546-3700. That's really great. Now, what are the typical strategies? And you don't have to talk because we're not giving advice specifically, but what are the kinds of things that could happen? Like you say, you mentioned that perhaps it's not about staying in the house. So what are the possible outcomes of?
Well, we try our hardest to keep the homeowner in the house. That's our number one goal, number 2, and number 3.
Okay, very clear. Okay.
Keep the homeowner in the home. If not possible, then avoid the foreclosure from taking place. Now, in order to keep the homeowner in the home, I mean, I've been working in the Housing Council for 10 years, and I can tell you we have never had two cases alike. It all depends on the financial situation of the homeowner, on the budgeting that we do with the homeowner's willingness to make certain financial sacrifices with their finances. It's very diverse. We try to, for example, when we call the banks, can we lower interest rate or lower payments or make the lender understand the true value of the home. A lot of the lenders, we have to understand this, are not in the Rochester area. They are outside of New York State. And a lot of them tend to think, oh, a house in New York, they think New York City. Oh, of course you can sell that house for more than what it was worth. And it's our job at the Housing Council to let them know, listen, that's not the market here. Why don't you work with us? And let's try to keep the homeowner in the house. One of the things that we have found in the past several years is that now lenders are more willing to work with us, because even though they may have to do a write-down on the mortgage or a lower interest rate, it's more profitable for the lender to keep the homeowner in the home than just foreclosing and having a vacant property. They're not in the business of real estate.
Sure. I had read that, after all sorts of expenses that the lender has to incur, they effectively get like 30 cents on the dollar, so they're really better off keeping the homeowner there and continuing the mortgage payments. It's a better deal.
And that's the job of our counselors, to work with the lender on something that is both beneficial for the lender and the homeowner, with the ultimate goal of keeping the homeowner in the home.
So then your counselors must ask your clients to really go through the detail of how they spend their money, right? To find some money that is being spent in the wrong places, possibly.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the things, we can do this over the phone, or we can do this with a person coming into the office. But we really get down to, okay, let's see your revenues, let's see your expenses, where can we make sacrifices, where can we work something out. So yes, we do get, as a matter of fact, budgeting is our #1 tool.
I see. Of course. You know what, in financial planning, that's what I tell people. We've got to understand the foundation of the financial picture, because we need to know how much is committed and how much is discretionary. Exactly. Because if you're committed so high, if something goes wrong, you have such big risks associated with that.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's really probably going through some of the discretionary spending and maybe some of the because the Housing Council deals mostly with housing issues. But what if homeowner ends up having a lot of credit card debt? Do you refer them to another agency, or
again,
do you help them?
Rochester is rich in local organizations that assist individuals. So even if a homeowner comes to the Housing Council and there are some credit card issues, we refer them to organizations such as Consumer Credit Counseling Services of Rochester. It's another great local resource where if someone is not even facing foreclosure and just credit card debt, and all they remember is a 546-3700, they can call and we'll make sure they get referred to the appropriate agency.
Yeah, that's great, because really, like you said, you can't start an official file until they've been foreclosed upon. But if they do remember that number, you could refer them to the right organization.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have a hotline, a homeowner hotline, that any homeowners with any questions, they can call us, which is a 546-3700.
Okay.
So people don't just need to call us because they're facing foreclosure.
Sure.
They can call us for any questions, and then we'll refer them to the appropriate entities.
Yeah.
Now, usually when the people are behind on their mortgage, they start getting letters from the bank. A good recommendation for them would be to open those letters, read them, and give us a call. The sooner the better.
If you don't open the mail, the problem's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
Probably going to get even worse.
It will.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. So in terms of the zip code where foreclosure happens, it's not one concentrated zip code. It's really all over the place.
It is all over the place.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, do you find, what about people who live in a different county? Because you service Monroe County. What if there's somebody who's having a problem in Wayne County? What do they do? Is there help available there?
546-3700. We actually have expanded our geographical servicing area where we have done cases as far as Syracuse and as far as Buffalo.
Is that right? And they don't have housing council as such, because this was started here in Rochester, right?
Correct. They have organizations that address the foreclosure issue, but because of our capacity, sometimes it's easier for them to refer individuals to us because they may be overloaded where they are. We have been doing this for so long, and we have been able to build capacity to handle those calls.
I see. Sort of a double-edged sword. You've been doing for a long time, so you're efficient at it. But unfortunately, we don't want it to too many in our community.
Right.
But it's nice to know, though, that help is available, because many people who are in that situation are probably embarrassed. They don't know what to do. I imagine what they talk about with your counselors are confidential. It's confidential.
As a matter of fact, that's why we also do a lot of the appointments in the office. We have, obviously, it's free service and utmost confidentiality. So we have trained our staff, and it is constantly being reinforced the importance of confidentiality.
Sure, right. Because I can imagine how embarrassing it would be for a homeowner and their family.
And it is, but it shouldn't be.
No.
I mean, these are circumstances, and I can say if I was talking to someone in Florida or California, I could tell you they should be embarrassed to some extent. But in the Rochester area, it's just the local economy, and we see it day in and day out. It's just an effect of the local economy. So people should not feel embarrassed.
Yeah, because they've done everything responsibly, but if they lost their jobs or had loss of income,
correct,
it makes it very difficult. Now, do you also find assistance for people who are going through the how to cope emotionally with this? Or it's just all financial stuff? No,
actually, you know, the irony of all this is that by people working with our counselors and unloading that burden on our counselors, where the counselors are going to pretty much do a work plan. Mm-hmm. How do we get from here to there? Okay. That takes care a lot of the stress involved with the foreclosure, because there is someone there working on the homeowner's behalf.
I see.
On solving the issue.
I see.
So our counselors will develop the working plan and tell the homeowner, okay, we need to do step A before we go to step B.
I see.
And coach the homeowner through the process.
I got it. So this is laid out for them. They have sort of a blueprint on how to get out of this situation that they're in, of the possibility of being foreclosed upon. I can imagine how much peace of mind people get by having that plan of action.
Plan of action. And again, I want to reinforce the cost of the service, which is completely free.
Yeah.
You should not be paying for this service.
So it's if our audience, if you're watching and you know of somebody who might be in a situation of having their mortgage foreclosed, make sure you call 546-3700. That's an easy number to remember.
It's very easy. And the website, again, if I may, is www.thehousingcouncil.org, and click on homeowner, and in there you will have the ability to have a request for a counselor to contact you. We have been able to, although I don't recommend homeowners wait till the last minute, we have been able to save foreclosure homes where the homeowner calls us on Tuesdays and says, my house is going to be on the selling block on Friday. Can you do something?
Oh, wow.
So for that, we have a very good counselor that she works the magic.
I see. Oh, wow. So it's not too late. It's not like even as little time as that, but preferably don't wait that long, because I can imagine the stress.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So as soon as you are have a foreclosure, file a foreclosure notice, pick up the phone, call 546-3700, and then work with the counselors. Yeah.
Please.
So I imagine it has to be a partnership approach. I mean, the homeowner needs to provide data that the housing council
and do some legwork.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
But they will have the counselor standing next to them as they go through the process.
I see, and so they know what they need to be doing
at all times.
And they always say that the most terrible thing is not knowing what you don't know. Because how do you help yourself when you don't know what you don't know and you're faced with a crisis? You know.
Correct.
So that's great. Well, this has been a very delightful conversation. I'm glad that I was able to invite you here and talk to our viewers about the available service that's available for free. Like you said, the adage "you get what you pay for" does not apply in this situation.
Because we are getting paid, and we're getting paid well by these other funders. So it's just that the way that it's translated to the homeowner, it should be free. Every dollar they spend should be spent towards bringing their mortgage current, not paying somebody else to help them.
So avoid those predatory.
Avoid them.
Yeah, risky scam. What is it called?
The foreclosure rescue scams.
Rescue scams. Avoid the foreclosure rescue scams. Very good. So best wishes, and I hope you guys continue to do the great work that you're doing, and the community thanks you, because it's good for everybody when people can stay in their homes and can afford to pay for it.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Alex Castro, Executive Director of the Housing Council here in Rochester, New York. And thank you, our audience, for joining us today. I'm Nannette Nocon, and this is About Money.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you have any questions for It's About Money, please email Nannette at nnocon@aol.com. This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.